Your life as a blood angel. The shadow of a massive executioner's axe splits the dim red light of the vault, rushing toward your unprotected neck with a whistling shriek. You are completely naked, your chest branded with smoking irons, your wrists pinned to a stone altar by heavy stasis clamps that hum with freezing energy. You want to scream in rage, but you don't. You are staring directly into the eyes of a High Chaplain Astaroth's skull mask, your breath coming in short, ragged gasps as the heavy silver blade comes down toward your throat, the displaced air biting into your skin. He is still lucid. The chaplain's deep voice echoes off the wet stone walls, his grip tightening on the pommel of the axe. The red tide is rising, but the human remains. Speak quickly, brother, before the beast takes your mind forever. Tell me how you survived the volcanic shafts. Tell me why you drank the blood of your own squad. The freezing field on your jaw relaxes just enough for you to speak. Your elongated incisors clicking against your lower lip as the memory pulls you backward into the dark. You just have to remember the exact moment the golden wall in your head shattered. You look past the razor edge of the axe, focusing on the dynamic crimson optical sensors of the chaplain's skull mask, forcing your frantic hearts to steady themselves against the cold slate of the altar. You try to speak, but all you can manage to voice out is a whisper with the sound scraping from your throat like broken glass. It began with the beauty they carved out of my rod, High Chaplain. It began when I still believed the blood could be contained. Your consciousness slips away from the executioner's chamber, plunging downward into the deep well of your own history, back to the radioactive sands where your flesh was first forged. It has been 7 long years since you were just a starving orphan, running through the radioactive waste of Baal Secundus, dodging the mutated scorpions and the feral raiders who hunted your tribe for meat. The memory is clear, etched into your mind with the permanence of a brand. You remember the day the great fire chariots of the sky descended, the blue exhaust turning the toxic sand to glass, and the ruby-armored gods who stepped out to claim the survivors. They had looked at you with your hollow cheeks and your eyes full of quiet, murderous intent, and they had chosen you for the trials. You had run across the burning salt flats until your lungs bled and survived the long years locked inside the biovaults while the gene seed tore your body apart and built something beautiful in its place. But you did not realize the price of that beauty until the first time you stood on the battlefield. A low chime sounds through the chamber, signaling the start of the morning devotionals, and you quickly dress in your heavy training robes before heading down the long corridors of Arx Angelum. The stones beneath your bare feet are carved with the thousands of names of the fallen, a reminder that every blood angel is just a temporary vessel for a power that outlives them all. You find yourself in the grand refectory, where hundreds of your battle brothers are already gathered, sitting in absolute silence before their empty stone chalices, waiting for the ritual bloodletting that keeps the madness at bay. You look down into your chalice as the sanguinary priests filled with a thick, vital blood wine meant to curb the ancestral hunger, and your mouth suddenly fills with a hot, desperate rush of saliva, the smell overwhelming, making your vision blur around the edges with a faint, angry tint of red, and you have to grip the edge of the stone table so hard the ancient wood groans under the pressure. Beside you, Brother Leon, a giant of a man with a jagged scar running from his eye to his jaw, places a heavy gauntleted hand on your shoulder, his grip firm and grounding.
"Steady, brother,"
Leon whispers, his voice low and rich.
"Do not let the beast see the light of day, for it is a hungry thing, and it never stops looking for an opening."
You take a long, slow breath, forcing the heat in your veins to recede, and you nod your thanks before swallowing the cold ration. But as the fluid hits the back of your throat, a dark whisper echoes in the back of your mind, telling you that this preserved fluid is nothing compared to the hot, pulsing rush of life taken straight from a beating heart. The thought stays with you all through the afternoon, even as you stand in the sun-drenched art halls of the monastery, holding a delicate brush beneath your massive fingers. It is a mandatory part of your training, a strict discipline imposed by the chapter to force your mind away from the constant urge for violence. Around you, brothers are carving beautiful statues from pure white marble, weaving intricate tapestries that tell the stories of the Great Crusade. You are standing before a massive canvas, trying to paint the memory of your mother's face from the days before the raiders took her. But every time you try to blend the soft colors of her skin, your hand shakes inks, and the brush leaves a sharp, jagged streak of crimson across the fabric. You drop the brush, the delicate wood snapping between your fingers. You step back, your chest heaving as you look at the ruined painting. It looks like a slaughterhouse, a vision of a golden figure falling through a sky of pure fire. Leon watches you from a few paces away, his own hands carefully polishing a small silver ring he has been engraving for weeks.
The brush is a harder weapon to master than the bolter,
Leon says softly, not looking up from his work.
The bolter only asks you to destroy, but the brush asks you to remember what is worth saving.
You don't answer him because you can't tell him that when you look at the canvas, you don't see your mother at all. You see a vision of a great golden-winged warrior lying broken on the deck of a dark starship, his chest torn open, his blood spilling out to stain the stars themselves. You see the father you have never met, dying a death that you can already feel inside your bones. The opportunity to test your discipline comes much sooner than you think. 2 days later, the sirens scream through the fortress, a harsh sound that shatters the midnight quiet and sends the entire chapter rushing toward the embarkation bays. A massive faction of the orcs, known as the Iron Grip Warlords Horde, has breached the defenses of a nearby industrial world called Kalin IV. The planet is a vital manufacturing hub, producing millions of tons of heavy ammunition for the Imperial war machine, and if it falls, the entire sector will be left defenseless. Within minutes, you are strapped into the cramped, vibrating interior of a Storm Raven gunship, the heavy weight of your ruby-red power armor pressing you into the metal seat.
The greenskins have already taken the primary processing district,
Leon says over the roaring hum of the engines.
They are butchering the logistics workers and turning the heavy smelting vaults into crude fortresses. So our orders are simple: clear the primary refinery and hold the main fuel line at all costs.
When the heavy assault ramp drops open with a deafening crash, the air that hits you is thick with a suffocating stench of burning oil, scorched promethium, and the sweet smell of roasting meat. You leap from the ramp, your heavy boots slamming into the soot-covered metal of a high gantry walkway, and the world instantly erupts into a chaotic wall of sound all around you. Massive brutes with skin the color of rotten moss are charging through the smoke, waving jagged cleavers and firing crude firearms that fill the air with black smoke.
Move forward for the Emperor and the Angel!
Leon roars over the voxnet, his chainsword roaring to life with a high-pitched shriek as he drives it into the chest of the nearest beast. Your razor bolt gun, your genetic enhancements taking over your movements, turning your body into a perfectly balanced lethal machine. You fire in short bursts, each heavy explosive round tearing through the thick hide of the attackers, blowing their chests out in wet sprays. But with every green skin that falls, the metallic smell of their blood grows thicker in the air. It is an alien fluid, foul and dark green, and the beast waking up in the back of your mind wants it. You turn a sharp corner, your bolter raised, when a massive weight slams into your side, throwing you off your feet and sending your weapon clattering away across the metal floor. It is an orc knob, a monster with nearly twice your size, its thick torso covered in crude plates of scrap iron, its jaw fitted with a massive steel clamp. It roars in your face, a sound that carries the hot stench of rotting meat, and it raises a massive power claw that crackles with unstable electricity. You roll frantically to the side as the claw slams into the floor where you had been a second before, tearing through the solid steel plating like wet paper. You scramble to your feet, drawing your combat blade, a heavy strip of silver steel, but the beast is incredibly fast for its size. It swings a heavy fist, catching you across the helmet. The force of the blow sends a blinding flash of white light across your vision, cracking your display and knocking you back against a massive steam pipe. The pipe ruptures from the impact, filling the air with a blinding cloud of white vapor. Through the white haze, you see the monster lunging forward again, its jaws wide open, ready to tear your throat out. You don't think or plan, you simply let the golden wall in your mind drop, and the red tide comes rushing through. A sudden burst of speed explodes through your limbs, your muscles tightening with a strength that does not belong to a mortal man. You dive under the swinging claw, your movement so fast it defies the heavy weight of your armor, and you drive your combat blade straight up through the soft skin beneath the creature's jaw. The silver steel sinks in up to the crossguard, and the massive monster freezes, its red eyes widening in sudden surprise. But you aren't done. You wrench the blade sideways, tearing the throat completely open, and a hot geyser of dark green blood erupts from the wound. The smell hits your senses like a physical blow, a heavy wave of pure energy, and before you can stop yourself, you wipe the visor with
your gauntlet. Look down at the dark fluid and press your bloody fingers against the grill of your helmet's respirator. The taste is bitter and foul, full of alien toxins that make your enhanced liver labor to filter them out, but the raw essence of the life force inside it triggers something devastating in your brain. The world around you goes completely silent. The roar of the steam and the sound of distant bolter fire fading away into a dull hum. The red tint in your eyes thickens until the entire world is rendered in shades of crimson, and your heartbeats turn into a rhythmic drumbeat that fills your ears. You look at the falling body of the beast, and you don't see an alien anymore. You see a traitor, a heretic who has dared to stain the palace of your father with his very presence. You drop your knife, reaching out with your bare hands, grabbing the massive corpse by the shoulders. You tear at the thick muscle with your bare teeth, your incisors catching on the dense fungal meat. You start laughing, a high sound that sounds nothing like the young man who painted in the quiet halls of Arx Angelum, and you turn toward the remaining orcs in the corridor with your fangs fully bared. When Leon and the rest of the squad finally clear the steam cloud and find you, the massive orc knob has been reduced to a pile of unrecognizable meat, and you are holding a ragged piece of its shoulder joint, your mouth pressed against the torn flesh, your chest heaving as you try to remember how to breathe.
"Brother,"
Leon says, his voice very quiet and steady as he steps into the room with his bolt gun lowered.
"Drop the meat. It is over. The sector is clear."
You turn your head slowly toward him, your eyes wild, your lips stained a dark green. For a split second, you don't recognize him. You see a figure in dark armor, its surface covered in golden lightning. It's a face, a grinning skull, and your fingers twitch toward your holster. You want to charge him, tear his throat out for his betrayal, and make him bleed for what he did to the walls of the palace. Leon doesn't move or raise his weapon. He simply stands there, his blue eyes fixed on yours through his open visor, full of a deep, sorrowful understanding.
"Brother,"
he says, his voice carrying a strange weight.
"look at me. You are a son of Baal. You are a protector of the realm. Come back to us."
The words hit your mind like a bucket of ice water, shattering the red illusion and bringing the cold reality crashing back down on your shoulders. The vision dissolves, the lightning-scarred armor turning back into the bright red of a loyal battled brother, and the weapon drops from your limp fingers, clattering loudly against the body deck plates. You look down at your hands, horror rising in your throat like bile, and you collapse onto your knees, your head hanging low as the long, broken sob tears from your chest. Leon steps forward, his heavy boots squelching in the gore, and he places his large hand on the back of your neck, leaning down close to your ear.
"We say nothing of this to the chaplain,"
he whispers, his voice grim.
"Not yet. We clean your armor. We return to the ship, and we pray that the stains wash us away. But you know as well as I do, brother, that once the beast tastes the wine, it will never stop asking for the bottle."
The return journey to Baal is a long, silent nightmare. You spend every hour inside your cell, refusing to eat, refusing to sleep, your body shaking with a deep withdrawal that makes your skin feel like it is being scraped with glass. The dark taste of the life force is burned into your memory, and every time you close your eyes, you see the red tide rising again, promising you absolute strength, absolute speed, and freedom from the fear that has haunted you since you were a child. You try to paint, but your hands shake so badly you cannot even hold the brush, and the canvas remains completely blank, a white mocking reminder of the purity you are losing. 3 months later, the chapter is called to a dark, volcanic mining planet on the fringes of the sector. The bugs have turned the lower production caverns into a nesting ground. Leon says, his voice muffled by his respirator.
"The air down there is dead. The shadows are full of claws, so keep your eyes on the motion tracker, and if anything moves without a transponder, you burn it until it turns to ash."
You nod, your teeth clicking together as a sudden sharp spike of anxiety hits your stomach. The darkness of the tunnels reminds you too much of the caves where you hid while your parents were butchered, a memory that makes your hearts pump a fast rhythm. You follow the squad down into the deep elevators, descending miles into the planet's crust until the air becomes hot and heavy, smelling of sulfur and the sour musk of the swarm. The elevator stops with a violent jar, the iron door sliding open to reveal a massive space that looks like the inside of a living beast. The stone walls have been coated in a thick layer of purple chitin, and the floor is covered in thousands of tiny eggs that squelch beneath your heavy boots.
"Forward!"
The sergeant orders, his chainsword held high, its small light cutting through the thick fog that hangs in the air. You move into the darkness, the heavy silence of the cavern broken only by the distant clicking of thousands of small claws moving across the ceiling. The motion motion tracker on your wrist begins to chime, a low beep that quickly increases in speed until it turns into a solid shriek of warning.
They're above us!
You yell, raising the heavy bolter just as the dark ceiling explodes into a falling wall of teeth and claws. Massive monsters, their bodies covered in hard armor plates, drop from the shadows, their long arms tearing through the air with a high shriek. You pull the trigger of your heavy weapon and it roars to life, a deafening rhythmic hammering that fills the cavern with brilliant light. Heavy explosive shells tear the incoming monsters apart, blowing their hard shells into thousands of flying shards. But for every one you kill, 3 more seem to crawl out of the dark cracks in the stone. The squad is quickly forced back into a defensive ring, their backs against a massive mining drill, their weapons creating a continuous wall of fire that keeps the clicking tide at bay. Leon is a pillar of fire in the dark, his heavy weapon sending long streams of liquid flame into the swarm, turning the monsters into screaming torches that light up the cavern with a sickly glare. But the swarm is endless, and they don't care about the losses. They simply crawl over the burning bodies of their fallen, their black eyes fixed on the flesh beneath your red armor. A massive beast, a Tyranid warrior nearly 3 times your size, breaches the line, its heavy feet crushing a space marine beneath its weight. It swings a massive bone-bladed arm, catching Leon across the chest, and the force of the blow tears through his ceramite breastplate, throwing him backward into a deep fissure in the cavern floor.
Leon!
You scream, your weapon clicking empty as the last belt of ammunition runs out. You drop the heavy gun, drawing your bolt pistol and your combat blade. You leap across the mountain of dead monsters, diving down into the dark fissure after him. The air down here is even hotter, thick with the heavy stench of sulfur and the bright smell of space marine blood. You find Leon lying against a pile of sharp rocks, his breastplate shattered, his left arm hanging by a few threads of muscle, his bright red blood pooling out onto the dark stone. The massive Tyranid warrior scrambles down the sides of the fissure after you, its long mandibles clicking together in anticipation, its bone blades dripping with a clear acid that dissolves the rock beneath it. You stand over your fallen brother, your hands shaking, your breath coming in short gasps as the memory of the raiders, the orc refinery, and the golden warrior and the palace all blur into one massive wave of panic. You look at Leon, his eyes dimming, his lips moving as he tries to speak, but only a thick stream of blood spills out of his mouth. The smell of his blood, your brother's blood, hits your nose like a physical blow, and the last thin wire of your sanity snaps completely. The red wall inside your mind explodes into a million pieces, and the beast comes roaring out into the light, completely enchained. The crimson haze that fills your vision is so thick you can barely see the shapes of the cavern, and your heartbeats turn into a continuous roar that fills your skull until you can't even hear your own voice. You collapse beside Leon, but your hands do not reach out to save him. The red thirst, fully unlocked by the scent of Astartes Vitae, consumes you. You drive your fangs deep into his neck, drinking desperately from the font of his dying life force. The rush of his blood is an explosion of pure fire in your veins. It is the pure essence of a demigod, full of 1,000 years of loyalty, strength, and memory. Your mind expands, your muscles swelling until your armor plates groan against the pressure, and a wild strength flows through your limbs, turning your body into something that is no longer human, but a primordial engine of pure destruction. You look up from Leon's body, your teeth fully bared, your eyes glowing with a dark light, and you let out a roar that is so loud, so full of pure fury, that the Tyranid warrior actually hesitates, its front limbs pulling back in sudden fear. You lunge forward, your speed so immense that you leave a blur in the red light of the cavern. You drive your silver blade straight through its center thorax, splitting its internal organs apart. You slam your armored body into the massive monster, throwing it to the ground with enough force to crack its thick back shell, falling upon it like a starving wolf. Your bare hands claw at the hard chitin, tearing away the heavy armor plates with your bare fingers, ignoring the sizzling acid that eats into your skin. By the time the rest of the squad manages to descend into the fissure, you are now sitting on top of the corpse, your hands buried deep inside the creature's chest cavity. You are singing a low, broken melody, an old ballad song about water and hope that your mother used to sing to you before the world burned. The sergeant steps into the light of the floodlights, his bolt pistol raised, but his arm is shaking as he looks at you. "By the blood of the angel," he whispers, his voice full of absolute horror. "He's gone. The rage has taken him." You turn your head slowly toward them, your eyes no longer containing any white or iris, just 2
burning coals of pure fury. You look at the sergeant, but you don't see a brother. What you see is Horus standing on the ridge of the vengeful spirit, his dark mace raised, his face twisted into a mocking grin as he looks down at your broken wings.
Horus!
You scream, your voice a wet guttural rattle that tears your throat.
You betrayed the father! You will all bleed for what you did to the palace!
You leap from the corpse, your movements erratic and terrifyingly fast, charging straight toward the sergeant with your fingers flexed into claws. The sergeant fires 3 shots, the heavy bolt rounds exploding against your shoulder and chest, tearing away chunks of ceramide and flesh. But you don't even slow down. You slam into him, throwing him against the stone wall. 2 other space marines rush forward, grabbing you by the arms, trying to pull you away, but your strength is unnatural, fueled by the madness of the curse. You throw them off like children, slamming one into the ground, breaking his visor with a heavy fist. You are a monster that belongs in a cage, and you are going to kill them all until the walls of Terra are safe. Suddenly, heavy iron netting fires from the darkness above, woven with disruptor fields that short-circuit your armor's power systems. You thrash like a rabid animal, but multiple heavy stasis clamps slam onto your limbs, pinning you to the volcanic stone. Through the red film of your eyes, you see the skull mask of the chaplains lowering over you as heavy sedative needles pierce your neck ports. The memory fades, snapping shut like an iron trap, returning you instantly to the freezing reality of the subterranean vault. High Chaplain Astarath has not moved. The edge of his massive axe still hovers a millimeter from your throat, the cold steel reflecting the crimson glare of the stasis fields. Your words hang in the damp air between you, a full confession of the monstrosity that took you in the depths of the planet. The chaplain looks down at you for a long, agonizing moment. The silence inside the chamber is absolute, broken only by the rhythmic hum of the machinery keeping your massive muscles frozen in place. You are completely lost to us, brother, Astarath says, his voice deep and heavy with an ancient sorrow. The black rage has taken your soul, and your mind resides forever at the siege of Terra. You can never walk among the living sons of Baal or wear the crimson armor of the proud again.
And strike!
You rasp, your jaw clicking against the stasis field, still seeing the shadow of the War Master and the chaplain's silhouette.
Give me the piece of the axe!
No, the chaplain whispers, his skull mask leaning closer until you see the dark lenses reflecting your own ruined face. Your fury belongs to the Emperor. For one final hour, you will wear the color of the starless night, and you will carry your curse until it burns the enemies of mankind to ash. He steps back into the shadows, signaling the tech priests waiting in the darkness. The freezing fields deactivate, dropping your heavy scarred body onto the cold stone floor. You lie there as the mechanical arms click and whir above you, lowering the heavy plates of your old suit of power armor back onto your shoulders. You are dragged from the vault, your chains rattling in the dark as you mutter broken words to yourself. You are ushered directly into the staging bays of the Death Company, surrounded by other lost brothers who scream at ghosts and claw at the reinforced walls. You are shoved into the dark interior of the drop pod, and as the launch mechanism releases, you are thrown down into the void at terminal velocity. The drop pod slams into the earth with a bone-shattering crash, the metal sides exploding outward to reveal a chaotic landscape of war. As you leap forward to the fire, your heavy black chainsword roaring to life, you look at the sea of enemies before you and you smile because you know that today, finally, you are going to get to bleed until there is nothing left.